The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Friday, December 26th, Boxing Day. I should have looked this up before the show, but maybe Robert can just enlighten us. What the hell, Boxing Day? Why is the day after Christmas Boxing Day? I do not understand the term. I don't know what it's about. Is this about Rocky? Is this about literal boxing? Is it something else? Is it boxes? Because today is when you throw out all the boxes from the gift you got. Anyway, Boxing Day. Happy Boxing Day, everybody. And I hope you had a fantastic Christmas and got all the gifts that you wanted. And just had a great time with family, friends, and whoever you hung out with. So I hope you enjoyed it. All right. Peter said, I unsubscribed, love the show, but economy is a bit rough right now. I don't think you have to pay any money to subscribe to the show, at least not on YouTube. But for a lot of people, the economy right now is tough and money is tight, and I get that. So I appreciate you still being here, and I appreciate that you love the show. All right, what are we doing today? Yeah, just some news items. We'll go through them quickly. We will see where that takes us. Of course, I will answer any and all of your questions, so feel free to jump in with any questions you might have using the Super Chat. I answer them all. So any comments, anything you want to say that you want me to read aloud, Super Chat. Yeah. All right. So Lincoln is cutting back on Super Chats. And Peter is cutting back on something. On membership. He's canceled his membership. He was a member. He's canceled his membership because economy is tight. I get it. All right. Alejandro says, Somaliland just recognized Israel. Such good news. I'm sorry, that's really funny. Alejandro, Somaliland is like a non-existent place in North Somalia, which is a place that is completely dominated by violence and anarchy. And Somaliland is this break-off piece of Somalia, kind of in the north. No country in the world recognized Somaliland as a country. Not that that matters. It's a dysfunctional place. It's a crazy place. And earlier today, Israel became the first country in the world, to recognize Somaliland. And now Somaliland in return has recognized Israel. Good times are rolling. Now, there is another angle to this, and that is that Somaliland exists. It is geographically really, really close to Yemen. It's not that far from Yemen, which means it's really not far from where the Houthis are. It is not quite on the straits there, on the narrowest part, but a little south of the narrowest part, but the Red Sea, where the Red Sea starts. So it's just underneath that. And for Israel, if Israel could establish a base in Somaliland, it would give Israel basically, very close proximity to the Houthis and much stronger, much more powerful capabilities to deal with the Houthis when the time comes to deal with them, and the time will come. There's no question about that. So there could be a strategic reason for Israel doing this, but really, other than the fact of their geography, Somaliland is a there's nothing there. And as I said, it's like Somalia is split into these tribal influences. It's basically anarchy over there. There's no one government. Somaliland has declared itself separate from Somalia, but whether they can hold on to that or not is hard to tell. Maybe Israel will be selling them some weapons, arms systems to get them going. All right, talk about conflicts out there in the world. Christmas Day, Donald Trump basically sent, I guess, the world a message that the United States now is not the policeman of the world. No. That would be anti-MAGA. The United States is now a defender of all Christians. It is now willing to go to war in the name of the cross, in the name of Christianity. I guess it's a new crusade. And as a consequence, the United States bombed supposedly some bases of an ISIS affiliate group in northwest, not northeast, northwest Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is a complicated place, and I am no expert in Nigeria. I know very little about Nigeria, other than that it is the most populated most populated African country. Is that true? Is it more populated than Egypt? It might be the most populated African country that's a non-Arab African country. It is, so it's a very large country, and birth rates are very high in Nigeria. So it's only going to get a bigger, a larger population as we move forward. Nigeria is also a country that is very much divided. It is a country that has a large Muslim population and a large Christian population. I don't know what the exact stats are in terms of the percentage, and I don't know that anybody really has that. But it might be, well, here's a graph. Let's see. According to this, we've got 55.5% of the country is Muslim. We've got 35.5 are Protestant. We've got about 10% Catholics. So that's 45.5 generally Christian. And then you've got the remaining, which is I don't know what it is. A small number, right? Because 45 and 55.5 is pretty much 90%. So 100%. So there's probably some small amount that is kind of native, I don't know, old African religions. Muslims basically live in the north, as you'd expect, right? Islam is in North Africa, so it spread south. So a lot of these countries, the northern parts of them are Muslim. Southern parts are Christian. It was Christianized by European colonists in the 19th century. So basically what you have is a country that's very much split, let's say, 55-45 Muslim to Christian. The wealthy part of the country is in the south. That's also where the energy is, the oil reserves are, which is what I think funds much of the wealth in the country is energy. It's also there is a very highly educated minority within Nigeria. Nigeria was, I think, a British colony. English is spoken there. They have a English educational system, which some people benefit from, primarily, I think, in the South. So there's definitely a religious divide and other divides. Muslims have been attacking Christian communities within Nigeria for years and years. You've probably heard of Boko Haram, which is a Islamist group affiliated with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, which has been attacking and kidnapping Christian girls, and either marrying them off to the Muslims, enslaving them, or just using them in order to what do you call it, to get money for their release. This has been going on for a very long time. Recently, so this has been primarily, Boko Haram primarily functions in the northeast of the country, Recently, in the northwest of the country, a couple of Islamist groups affiliated with ISIS have established themselves, both kind of related in some way to the Islamic State, indirectly or directly, but in some ways related to them. The United States chose to target these groups, or at least one of these groups, during this attack. So the two groups are, one is an offshoot of Boko Haram, and then there's another one called Islamic State Sahel Province, ISSPP, locally known as Lakurawa. Anyway, that's the one, it appears, that the United States attacked during Christmas. The message was, stop killing Christians. And of course, Trump had a whole statement about how this was the most powerful attack in history, and we killed a lot of the enemies of Christianity, and we will not stand by as Christians are slaughtered in Africa, and on and on and on and on. The reality is that the United States has no appetite for getting into a war in Nigeria. While Nigerians, I think, accepted this one attack, I don't think that the Nigerians are particularly interested in the United States coming in and helping them out with these terrorist attacks. Remember, 55% of Nigeria is Muslim. The government is on the one hand, fighting against Islamic terrorism. On the other hand, it also has to make sure that the Muslims that live there are not going to rebel against the government. So they have a fine line. The Europeans are interested in kind of quiet in Africa. They would like to see Africa developed. They'd like to see Africa become richer, and as a consequence, reduce the number of immigrants from sub-Saharan Africa that are migrating north through the Sahara Desert, across the Mediterranean into Europe as illegal immigrants. So everybody has an interest in kind of quietening things down in Africa and letting economic development happen there. But it's turning out to be incredibly difficult. So far, this area is rife with warfare and tribal hatred and tribal violence and violence between Muslims and Christians, and it probably goes both ways. And the Nigerian military is struggling to deal with these terrorists, and now the United States has stepped in, done some bombing. I mean, I think this is great PR for Trump. He gets to tell his base, I'm defending Christians, and all those people who listen to Tucker who think, Christians are the victims all over the world, primarily of a Zionist conspiracy, but are victims all over the world. Trump can then appeal to them and say, see, I'm fighting on your side. This is a Christian government fighting for Christians. It's really nothing more than that, right? I mean, there's no, this one bombing is not going to change anything. It's not going to make ISIS suddenly give up. The United States has lost strategic positions within Africa. In Niger, which is not Nigeria, Niger, which is a border with Nigeria. The United States had a base there where it was launching drones from. It lost that base when the Niger government there was a military coup, and the new leaders kicked out the Americans. Why the United States is in Africa is not clear. If it really wants to fight ISIS or prevent ISIS from getting established in Africa, it really needs to. It would need to have a lot more forces than it has there now. It would need to crush the funders of ISIS and the intellectual origins of ISIS, and for that they would need to deal with people like the Qataris and others in the Middle East, which the United States is clearly not interested in doing. So this attack, which you'll hear a lot about, people are talking a lot about, it's symbolic. It's a rah-rah moment for Trump. He likes to drop bombs. I mean, I think he really enjoys it, particularly when there no risk of American casualties, no risk of really, really descending into any kind of real war, blowing boats out of the Caribbean Sea. They really enjoy that. They sending missiles into the Nigerian, I don't know, jungle, wilderness, whatever it is, and blowing up some Islamists. I think they enjoy that. All in the name, of course, of defending Christianity or defending American from fentanyl or whatever the excuse happens to be. But nothing much will come of this. I'm not saying this is the last time America will bomb Nigeria, but this is not a new war. They're not going to engage in it fully. They're just going to, again, symbolic, so he can say he's defending Christians. Cost a lot of money. Whatever missiles they used, and I haven't seen any evidence to suggest or anything saying what they used, cruise missiles, probably, or I don't think it was drones. I think it was cruise missiles. There's no suggestion of what exactly they were and how much they cost and what was the damage. It's not clear what the damage was and what is the long-term purpose here. Unclear. This terrorist organization, Lukurawa, controls territories in 2 states, and they kill, they kidnap, they rape, they armed robbery. So yeah, all the power to anybody who can kill them and destroy them. But again, to really rid Nigeria and the Christians in Nigeria of this menace, of this horrific terrorist organization, require a lot more than a little bit of bombing on Christmas Day and then walking away, which is, I'm sure, what the United States is going to do. Maybe this is bolstering the Nigerian military, giving them a little bit of oomph, a little bit of confidence. Hard to tell. All right, let's see. There is a lot of complexity to what's going on in Nigeria, but there's no question there's a significant religious dimension to this. And whatever the conflict, the underlying tribal conflicts that are going on in Nigeria between nomads and farmers and other things, ISIS, Islamic State, and other Islamist terrorist groups are going to take advantage of it. So they're there, and they're taking advantage of it. It's not clear if Nigeria asked for help. After the fact, they're saying it was coordinated with them, but they're not saying they asked explicitly for help. I don't think they did. I don't think they want it. I think Trump basically said, we're going to do this, and they said, well, what are we going to do? So yeah, okay, go ahead. Just don't make this a habit. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. Over the last few days, I've seen a bunch of stories about Qatar's influence campaigns in the United States, and the amount of funding that they're just expending around this is truly stunning, and the number of people that they are lining up. I've seen some official documents. If you lobby on behalf of foreign government, you have to register in the United States. For example, we know now that Qatar is paying $80,000 a month. A month. In other words, $960,000 a year to several former congressmen, Jim Moran, Tim McMillan, Tom Davis, Tom Reynolds. $960,000. God, I should become a congressman. I should. I should run for Congress. I mean, it's an incredibly lucrative business, not while you're in Congress. You have to be in Congress for a little while, and then you leave, and then you become a lobbyist, and then you get the Qataris coming and giving you, because $960,000. I mean, a lot of people would sell their soul to the devil, never mind to Qatar, for $960,000 a year. I mean, that is it. You do a few years like that, and you're done. Anyway, so you got 4 former congressmen, working for Qatar, and that's just and that's just partial list of all the different people that they've got listed here in terms of taking phone calls and dealing with Qatari issues. So it really is amazing the number of people that they have on their payroll. In addition, and this kind of surprised me, but I guess nothing should surprise me. Bennett, you remember William Bennett, Bill Bennett? He must be pretty old now. But Bill Bennett, a mainstay of Republican politics, was education secretary under Reagan, wrote those books about kind of morality stories for kids, with some good stuff in there, some bad stuff in there, very religious, quite religious. He's 82, according to Neb Sampson. He's 82 years old. Anyway, it turns out that he is being paid $30,000 a month, a lot cheaper. I don't know. Maybe because he's 82 and can't really work that hard. Maybe this is just a part-time job. He's being paid $30,000 a month by the Qataris to convince Americans that Qatari universities don't support Islamic extremism. That's explicitly in his charter in terms of what he's supposed to do. God, how much would they pay me? Maybe this is how I really retire, right? I go on the payroll of Qatar. Now, this is a headline from New York Post, so granted, it could be fake, right? It's the New York Post, so it's hard to tell, but it could also be true given everything else that's going on. According to this is the headline: Qatar allegedly hired ex-CIA agent to discredit Senator Ted Cruz and other lawmakers opposed to Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. Would that shock anybody if that was true? No, not at all. Not at all. Of course, we know, or we suspect strongly, that Tucker is on the payroll. Who knows? Maybe Candace is getting some crumbs here and there. I don't know. They might not have to pay Candace to be as anti-Semitic as she is. That might be just natural, come natural to her. But maybe they had to pay Tucker. Maybe they had to compete with Putin in order to pay Tucker to see who could get more of his attention. I think Carter won. He hasn't spoken positively that much about Putin recently. I don't know if Nick Fuentes, again, I don't know that they have to pay Nick Fuentes. I think he does it for free. Like, how much would they have to pay me? I mean, it would cost a lot more than $80 a month, right? Sell my soul to the devil. What would the price be? So you find, if you dig hard enough on a lot of kind of the anti-Israel, anti-American Twitter accounts, now that you can click on them and find out where they're based, it's really interesting to do it. So there's this one account called Israel Exposed, and it comes across as an American. And if you support Israel, he'll come out and say, "Oh, you're in Israel first. We should deport you from America." All this stuff. And now you can click on Israel Exposed, and you'll find that it's an account based in Saudi Arabia. So we live in a what would you call it? Propaganda-rich environment, propaganda-rich world, where a lot of what you read is very hard to tell how much of it is being bought and paid for, and how much is actually real. And it is fascinating, of course, fascinating that media, many people on the right and on the left, obsess about AIPAC. They obsess about Israeli lobbying that happened on behalf of Israel. AIPAC is funded not by the Israeli government. AIPAC is funded by American Jews or Americans more broadly. But it's lobbying for Israel generally. Isn't it fascinating that constantly you hear about AIPAC's influence on the American government? And I bet you anything that AIPAC only spends a fraction of what countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia and other countries like that are spending. So, yeah. They are, who is lying? Somebody's accusing somebody of lying. Tucker never took any money. He said he isn't. Tucker lies more than he tells the truth. Tucker lies more than he tells the truth. Now, I don't know if he took money or not. I don't know that he needs to take money. I mean, he makes a lot of money in his show anyway. But to take Tucker as word at anything, given the absolute, unmitigated lies that he tells on a regular basis about pretty much everything, and just how despicable and anti any values the man has become. But it's just unbelievable that you would take anything he says on face value. It's not a bad idea to lie about something you can easily be exposed to. Trump every single day lies about things that are easy to expose him. He doesn't care. Tucker lies, he doesn't care because he gets your attention. People like you make Tucker's lying possible because you don't care. The reality is that Americans who listen to Tucker, the millions of people who watch Tucker, don't care about lies. They don't watch Tucker because they seek the truth. They watch Tucker because they want whatever he's dishing out. The kind of propaganda, the kind of bias, the kind of, ill-informed lying that he engages in. That's exactly what they want. They're getting exactly what they signed up for. But, when Trump says something like, tariffs have brought in $18 trillion. I mean, that is an obvious, easily checkable, easily discovered lie, and he keeps repeating it. It doesn't matter to him one iota. But he lies all the time. And Tucker's basically the same thing. I mean, he's a little bit more sensitive to asking questions. Remember the asking questions? But he's lying. He's evasive, evading, disingenuous, and the worst kind of liar. I mean, think about the supermarket story. Think about the people want to hear all sides of the argument, but he has no argument, and there is no other side. There is truth. All sides of the argument is one of the lamest, stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, I want to hear, maybe Hitler was a good guy. Who knows? We don't know. Let's hear Hitler's side of the argument. Really? Let's hear Stalin's side of the argument. Let's hear who's a big-named serial killer? Let's hear the serial killer's side of the argument. Maybe there's some justification for, raping and butchering young women. God. Why would you want to hear any of that? I mean, that just shows how unthinking our culture has become. How emotionalist, subjectivist, relativists this culture has become. What is the value of hearing untruth? What is the value of hearing lies? What is the value of hearing people, spew evil nonsense? There is none. Zero, zilch, nada. But we live in a culture where people enjoy wasting their time. Wasting their time. You know, to make up your mind about Hitler, you don't need to hear a Nazi. A bunch of history books. You can even read Mein Kampf. Why even listen to a historian? Read Mein Kampf. You can actually check out some of his speeches. There are transcripts of Hitler's speeches. You can do it firsthand. Why would you want to listen to an evil intellectual trying to justify the horrors of Hitler? Anyway, this is Kendall is just rationalizing his interest in the subjectivist, the relativist, the evil, and just trying to justify Tucker and the rest of them. All right, a few things about anti-Semitism that came out over the last few days. So Tucker, of course, J.D. Vance, not Tucker, J.D. Vance, of course, is kind of stuck in this position where he doesn't want to comment on the anti-Semitism because he doesn't want to upset the Tucker Carlson fans, who Tucker's a huge supporter of J.D. Vance's. I don't know what his views are. I don't know if anybody knows what actually J.D. Vance thinks. He went after Nick Fuentes, but only because Nick Fuentes, went after his wife, but not after Nick Fuentes in terms of any of the ideas or any of his substantive stuff. So he's got this. What does he do with anti-Semitism? So basically, he came out with a statement, a couple of days ago, saying almost no American's anti-Semitic, and really all of this is just people are using this just as an excuse not to not to discuss U.S. policy on Israel. She's taking Tucker Carlson's line. No, none of this is anti-Semitism. I don't deal with anti-Semitism, Tucker Carlson tells us. I'm just asking questions about U.S. support for Israel, everything that Israel, does. U.S. maybe shouldn't support Israel, and that's the conversation. But of course, that has nothing to do with the conversation. This is not about U.S. support for Israel. This is all about preaching hatred for Israel and, by extension, for Jews. Tucker Carlson does not only talk about Israel. He talks about Jews more broadly. But he loves talking about Israel. And he lies explicitly about Israel. I mean, there was this great segment where he was talking about how in Qatar, Christians are treated better than Christians are treated in Israel, which is just one lie after lie after lie, easily debunked, easily found out. You can ask Grok, you can ask ChatGPT, or you could travel to Qatar and you can travel to Israel and check it out yourself. So, he clearly lies about Israel in order to create a certain attitude about Israel. The most recent example of this is Matt Gaetz, the former congressman, the wacky former congressman who had to withdraw from I think, Donald Trump wanted to make him attorney general, which is bizarre. And he had to withdraw from that because even Republicans, who typically do everything Donald Trump tells them to do, wouldn't vote for Matt Gaetz as attorney general. Anyway, Matt Gaetz, in his interview with Tucker now, has said that, the accusations that he had sex with underage prostitutes and trafficked underage girls, those accusations that there was a whole congressional investigation about. Well, it turns out, you will be shocked to discover that all of that was an attempt by Israel to Israeli operatives to make him look bad. This was all an Israeli undercover operation to make him look bad, right? And Tucker Carlson, in the interview, is going along with this completely. He's not asking questions. He's not challenging anything. Matt Gaetz is just making stuff up and claiming the U.S. never investigated it into Israel's involvement. And, this was all, Matt Gaetz is really just a nice guy. He's just a friendly guy. He doesn't use prostitutes at all, and he's certainly not in the underage ones, and he doesn't traffic in any girls. He's just, all of that was just an Israeli Mossad, story to discredit him because, I don't know, he was asking questions. Remember? He was asking questions about Israel, and the Israelis won't tolerate that, so they immediately go, I won't be surprised if next it's going to be Jeffrey Epstein actually worked for the Israeli Mossad. Oh no, though that's already been covered. They've already tried that angle. It turns out that in all the hundreds of thousands of documents so far released about Jeffrey Epstein, nothing indicates that he actually worked for the Israeli Mossad. Maybe that's because the Israeli Mossad has covered the tracks so damn well that. But we know it's there. We know the evidence is there. It's just a matter of time before it comes out. Supposedly, there's still 1 million more documents to be released in the Jeffrey Epstein issue. Look, J.D. Vance wants to say anti-Semitism was overstated just a few days after the Bondi Beach murders. He is criticizing people who are expressing concern. We shouldn't really make a big deal out of this. He is treading a very fine line, right? Treading a very fine line. And it's going to be interesting. He's trying to maintain the pro-Israel MAGA base and the anti-Israel MAGA base, and trying to somehow juggle and keep them both up in the air at the same time. Also doing a lot of juggling is Megyn Kelly. So Megyn Kelly is now saying, look, yeah, there is anti-Semitism, but anti-Semitism is actually being created. It's being created by Shapiro and Barry Weiss. That is, Shapiro and Barry Weiss are making anti-Semites because of how obnoxious they are. It's not Tucker who's making anti-Semites. It's not Tucker spewing anti-Semitic lies and rewarding and encouraging anti-Semitism. No. It's Shapiro and Weiss, because they're defending Israel and because they're attacking Tucker and because they're standing up for their values. They are creating anti-Semitism in response to them. It's not Candace Owen. No. Candace is not convincing anybody. She's not creating any anti-Semites. It's the people trying to defend themselves. It's the people pointing out the anti-Semitism of Candace and the anti-Semitism of Tucker. They're the ones creating the anti-Semitism. This follows an ancient pattern of anti-Semitism. The Jews are to blame. What did Barry Weiss do? She she defends Israel, and she attacks Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen. I mean, it's an ancient pattern of blaming the Jews for their own destruction. Why were Jews kicked out of England? Oh, I don't know, but they must have done something. Why would England kick them out? Like England kicked them out in the 13th century or something. For 200 years, there were no Jews in England. Why did the Holocaust happen? Well, Jews must have done something. I mean, you don't kill 6 million people, and they can't really be innocent. There has to be something that they did. Why are Tucker Carlson and Candace blaming Jews for killing Charlie Kirk, or just asking questions? Well, they can't be fully innocent. Maybe they didn't like Charlie. Maybe they conspired against Charlie. Maybe they thought about killing Charlie. Maybe there's something there. Let's not completely dismiss this. Unbelievable. How low Megyn Kennedy has descended. Jews are always blamed for their own persecution. Always blamed for their own persecution. It's always their fault. Always their fault. I mean, yep. And look, I'll just say this, and we'll go on. But anti-Semitism is becoming a real powerful force out there on the left and on the right. Far-right podcasters, it monetizes well. It gets you a lot of views and a lot of attention. Now, granted, there's a lot of bots involved and a lot of those Qatari influence campaigns, but it gets attention. It might be Qatar. It might even be China. China loves to stir things up in the United States, destabilize American institutions. So it's on the left, it's on the right, it's in college campuses, it's in MAGA, it's all over the place, and it's not a good sign for culture when this becomes a real feature of the culture and the debates and the discussions going on. The good news is that it's still a minority, right? But it's a growing minority, and it's a ever growing and becoming more significant and influential minority. And when somebody like the Vice President of the United States refuses to condemn it and belittles it and provides sanction for anti-Semites themselves, then it's a real problem. It's beyond just a nuisance or a bad sign. It becomes now something that becomes part of the culture, and something we have to be really worried about as we move forward. Well, the New York Times, we all know the New York Times is a biased newspaper. We all know that the New York Times is left of center, sometimes very left of center on some stories, but generally left. It's going to be critical of Trump and critical of Republican governments generally. Sometimes it's horrifically left, and sometimes it's just moderately biased. But it is one of the very few news organizations out there that actually does in-depth reporting. And one of your jobs as a reader and consumer of information is to take into account the bias that you know that exists and adjust for it. But the reality is that without entities like the New York Times, and almost all of them are left biased, there is very little kind of the in-depth reporting. You would get very little, if any, in-depth reporting about issues. And of course, the New York Times has really dove in deep into the Epstein files, the Jeffrey Epstein files, and they come out a number of stories based on the released information. And one of them was a story about the relationship between Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, The article itself never really accuses Trump of anything, any, in a sense, illegal behavior, let's put it that way. But it does point out that for many years, something that seems irrefutable, Trump was a very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein's. Traveled on his plane way many more times than he admits to. This is all probably in the 90s and the early 2000s, so before, it seems like it's before Epstein was accused of anything legally, got into legal trouble. But they did an in-depth piece on Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and how close they were for a long, long time. And this is, of course, Trump's response. I mean, this is about as un-American a response as it gets. The failing New York Times and their lies and purposeful misrepresentation is a serious threat to national security of our nation. Now, here's another example of Trump just lying, blatantly lying. Blatantly lying. A national security threat to the state. Now, we'll get to what that means in a minute. He continues, the radical left, unhinged behavior, writing fake articles and opinions, a never-ending way, must be dealt with and stopped. They are a true enemy of the people. They are a true enemy of the people, all caps. Thank you for the attention in this matter. Now, note what this note on Truth Social does. It basically says that the New York Times needs to be stopped. Stop writing stories that Donald Trump does not like. Stop writing stories that criticize Donald Trump or that Donald Trump believes are fake. And it's positioned as a national security threat. Now, if this in and of itself, just this statement, is not a violation of the First Amendment, I don't know what is. When the President of the United States, carrying a very big stick, or a very big gun, as the case may be, threatens a major publication with being stopped because of national security risks, when, of course, there's no national security at stake, that is a direct threat to their freedom of speech. That is a direct threat to their First Amendment rights. I mean, if that doesn't cause what's called the chilling, a self-censorship, people starting to limit what they can and cannot say because they're afraid that Donald Trump will come after them. I mean, in many respects, Donald Trump, at least in his statements, in his lawsuits, and his attacks through the legal system on law firms, I can't think, at least in my lifetime, of a more anti-free speech president. This makes, in my view, this makes what Biden did, which was horrific, vis-a-vis Twitter, look like child's play. This is so much more effective, so much more destructive. And of course, this explains why Barry Weiss killed the story at CBS. To a large extent because CBS has already settled a lawsuit that Trump filed against them regarding a 60 Minutes story. They don't want another lawsuit, so they self-discipline to cut stuff that is overly critical of Donald Trump and his administration because they're afraid of being stopped and being dealt with through lawsuits. And remember, it's very rare that a lawsuit like this goes to court. I mean, I wish they did, all the way to Supreme Court. It should be viewed as violation of the First Amendment. But instead, they're settled because it's very, very expensive to try these cases. Trump, I think, has a $1 billion lawsuit against the New York Times. I think, or was it? It was thrown out. I think a judge threw it out already. So, but it's intimidating. Intimidation. And this, again, is what I mentioned this a few shows ago. This is what the right has learned from the experience of Orban and Putin, you can intimidate yourself. You can use intimidation and ownership by friends and family to basically shut down independent media. And that's what happened in Hungary. And of course, that plus real violence is what happened in Putin's Russia. All right. Unbelievable that he can tweet what he tweets. National security risk, a serious threat to the national security of our nation. He can say they need to be stopped, and again, it gets almost no real exposure. All right, this is kind of a funny story. So there's a problem in the world right now, right? Birth rates are plummeting. Women are not, couples are not having enough children. Women are not having enough children. Populations are collapsing in places like South Korea and elsewhere, and even in the United States. People are really worried about people are not having enough babies. Well, it turns out that some billionaires have a solution to this. We certainly know that Elon Musk is trying to single-handedly solve this problem. He's got, I think, 14 children by 3 different wives, and I think more probably on the way. But he is an amateur as compared to some of these others. 2 in particular. We've got one, Pavel Durov. Pavel Durov is the owner and CEO of Telegram. He's the guy who got arrested, I think, in France. Was it a year ago, 6 months ago? Can't tell the time. And he got arrested and because of Telegram supposedly being used for money laundering and stuff like that, child pornography, but I'm not sure. I haven't followed the court case. I'm not sure what happened. Anyway, Pavel is claiming that he has over 100 biological kids. Now, he has not done this through the same mechanism as Elon Musk, but here's Pavel's story as he's expressed it on Telegram. 15 years ago, a friend of mine approached me with a weird request. He said that he and his wife couldn't have kids due to a fertility issue and asked me to donate sperm at a clinic for them to have a baby. I laughed my ass off before realizing he was dead serious. The boss of the clinic told me that high-quality donor material was in short supply, and it was my civic duty to donate more sperm to anonymously help more couples. Now, this sounded crazy enough to get me to sign up for sperm donation. Fast forward to 2024. My past donating activity has helped over 100 couples in 12 countries to have kids. Moreover, many years after I stopped being a donor, at least one IVF clinic still has my frozen sperm available for anonymous use by families who want to have kids. Now, I plan to open source my DNA so that my biological children can find each other more easily. Of course, there are risks, but I don't regret having been a donor. The shortage of healthy sperm has become an increasingly serious issue worldwide, and I'm proud that I did my part to help alleviate it. I also want to help destigmatize the whole notion of sperm donation and incentivize more healthy men to do it, so that families struggling to have kids can enjoy more options, defy convention, redefine the norm. So he is with his sperm. In high quality, he's a really smart guy, supposedly really high quality, is out there. You can still get his sperm, if any of you are interested out there, from the Ultra Vita Clinic. And supposedly this last summer, during an interview with a French magazine, he's actually announced that his biological children, that is these 100 kids, are all going to receive an equal share of his inheritance. Now, Forbes pegs his wealth to $17 billion. You divide that by 100, that is still $170 million each, right? Now, of course, all of that depends on the value of Telegram, and who knows what Telegram is actually worth. But he also owns a lot of Bitcoin, from what we've heard, that he bought in 2013. Who knows what that's worth, given that he bought it in 2013. So now with DNA tests, you can check to see if you're if you're young enough, if you're a child of the Telegram CEO, and maybe you can collect, a 9-figure payday when Durov dies. Of course, he could change his mind by then. But yeah, I mean, now this has become this became a story but on top of it, this became a story, and others are also doing it, right? In terms of not just sperm donation, but now there's a whole surrogacy. There's a whole surrogacy industry that exists in the United States, which it turns out Chinese billionaires are taking advantage of. The Wall Street Journal had a series of articles on all this stuff. So it turns out that there's a Chinese billionaire that they called Xubo, X-U-B-O, X-U one word, B-O another word, right? That has basically paid couples all over California to have his children as surrogates. The Chinese billionaire, with surrogates, a judge has to sign off on the paternal rights, I guess, and usually it's just a formality. But in this case, the judge noticed that the same Chinese billionaire was seeking paternal rights over 4 unborn children. And then the court did a little bit more research, and they found that he had fathered 8 other children, all through surrogates, in the United States. Several of his kids, for example, are being raised by nannies in Irvine, California, as they await paperwork to travel to China. And so the judge has now denied his request for parentage, and so these babies, these 4 babies, don't have a parent, right? The surrogate isn't the parent, and he's denied the parentage of the biological parent, and they're kind of legal limbo. It's not clear what's going to happen to them. But what turns out is there are a number of these Chinese billionaires who are now, in a sense, having anchor babies in the United States. They are hiring surrogates in the U.S. Now, the U.S., as compared to other countries, has a fairly loose or fairly free, loose is the wrong word, free surrogate laws. You can hire a surrogate to have your kids, which is not the case in a lot of other places. So there are a number of Chinese parents are paying millions in surrogacy fee to hire women in the United States to help them build a family. One of the benefits of this is that the kids are U.S. citizens because they're born in the United States. And there's another Chinese executive, Wang Huiwo, something like that. He hired U.S. models and others as egg donors to have 10 girls, with the aim of one day marrying them off to powerful men. Again, according to people in his kind of executive circle. Other Chinese clients, this is from the Wall Street Journal article, usually seeking more typical numbers of children, are high-powered executives lacking the time and inclination to bear their own children. Older parents or same-sex couples, according to people who arrange surrogacy deals and work in surrogacy law. All have the will to go outside of China. They maintain their privacy, and the United States is the best market to do this, again, because you get citizenship, and because, again, the laws are pretty favorable to surrogacy. The market's grown so sophisticated, according to the Wall Street Journal article, that at times Chinese parents have had U.S.-born children without stepping foot in the country. a thriving mini industry of American surrogacy agency, law firms, clinics, delivery agency, and nanny services, even to pick up the newborns from hospital, has risen to accommodate the demand, permitting parents to ship their genetic material abroad and get a baby delivered back at a cost of up to, and in some cases more than, $200,000 per child. The growing Asian market for international fertility services has drawn the attention of American investors, including Peter Thiel, whose family office has backed a chain of IVF clinics across Southeast Asia and recently opened up a branch in Los Angeles. So maybe this is, these not quite test tube babies yet, but the solution, of course, to the fertility problem is going to be test tube babies, and people, ultimately, you won't need a womb in order to create a baby. You'll be able to do it all outside of a woman's womb, and you'll be able to have as many babies as you want without going through pregnancy. And I think that'll increase the number of children people are willing to have. Now, there's already, of course, a bill in Congress to ban the use of surrogacy in the U.S. by people from foreign countries, particularly China. So this is something that Congress is looking at. So billionaires around the world having lots of kids in different ways, either through sperm donations, sleeping with a bunch of different women, or in the case here of actually just hiring somebody in California to have your baby, sending them genetic material, doing it all, hiring nannies to take care of them, and then shipping them back to China with a brand new minted U.S. passport. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. All right, let's see. We'll do these quickly. So Zelensky, it sounds like Zelensky is traveling to Mar-a-Lago this weekend to meet with Trump to try to finalize the Ukrainian peace deal that so a deal that Ukraine is willing to sign off, that then will go to Russia to get Russia approval. Zelensky is still uncomfortable with the idea of giving up vast amounts of territory and just giving it to the Russians, and he's trying to come and convince Trump that is really unacceptable. But we'll see. They're going to meet on Sunday to finalize this. It does sound like whatever is finalized, which will involve territorial concessions by Ukraine. There is no doubt about that. Now that it's clear that the United States will not back Ukraine in actually fighting this war, I think Ukraine has no choice, and the Europeans are too cowardly to fully back them. I think, again, Ukraine has no choice. Zelensky is saying that once he agrees with Trump, and if the Russians agree to it, which I think is still unlikely, then Zelensky will take the plan to a nationwide referendum. He can't give up land without a referendum. He's willing to do that only if Russia agrees to a ceasefire of at least 60 days, so that they can set up, the Ukrainians can set up the infrastructure to actually get a vote on this, right? So Trump's plan is going to mean some territorial concessions from Ukraine in the east. It's just a question of how many. That's why Zelensky is coming to Mar-a-Lago to determine how much concession. But they're going to have to do this referendum to get it passed. It's not clear to anybody that Russia is going to agree to this plan. And I doubt that they will. And I think that's why Zelensky is kind of agreeing to this stuff, because I think he thinks he'd rather agree to it and let Putin kill the deal, because he hopes that then Trump will side with him and not with Putin. He's an optimist. This agreement includes significant, security guarantees to Ukraine, hopefully more secure than past security guarantees. According to Zelensky, he said, I think we are ready with the security guarantee documents. This would be security guarantees that would be a bilateral agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine. There's still some, he says, some technical things they have to deal with. For example, how long will the security guarantees last? The U.S. has proposed a 15-year agreement. Zelensky would like more than 15 years. We'll see. And, Zelensky definitely wants U.S. security guarantees, not European security guarantees. He also, of course, is praising Witkoff and Kushner. He's learned the game. The game is you have to continuously, continuously praise anybody related to Trump. So anyway, we will see. We'll know more at the end of this weekend. And of course, it's not clear how the Ukrainians will vote if there's a referendum. It's not clear how the Ukrainians will vote. Also on Sunday, the European leaders are expected to zoom in, but I guess European leaders are going to have a conversation with Trump on Saturday to get everyone up to speed, and then Zelensky will meet with Trump on Sunday. So we'll see. We'll see how his relationship is with Trump, and it depends whether J.D. Vance shows up or not. All right, quickly on Japan, big changes in Japan. Japan has in its constitution basically a pacifist provision. It cannot spend a lot of money on defense. It cannot spend money on offensive weapons. It can't go to war, really. And Japan is clearly changing that or working against that, and might have to change its constitution ultimately. Since the Japanese prime minister indicated that Japan would come to the aid of Taiwan if China invaded Taiwan, her popularity has skyrocketed in Japan. She now has an approval rating of something like 78% or something ridiculous like that, which just proves that nationalism sells. Nationalism sells. Standing up to China sells. Anyway, as a consequence of that, and as a consequence of the back and forth with the Chinese and the increased hostilities, the Japanese cabinet has now approved a record $58 billion in defense spending. It's the largest military expansion for the Japanese since World War II. And it's a real shift. It's a real shift in strategy, a real shift in approach. A lot of the money is going to go for a variety of different missiles, from offensive missiles that can actually reach the Chinese mainland. Of course, China's not that far away from Japan. To air defense, significant air defense spending, and drone swarms. Japan has the industrial capacity to really compete on the development and the production of large quantities of drones. So drone swarms that can both work in the air, on the sea, and under the sea. And they've also approved $1 billion as part of a consortium with the UK and Italy for the development of a next generation fighter jet. So this is going to be significant. Japan has hit 2% of GDP in defense spending. This is 2 years earlier than expected. It is striving towards reaching 3.5%. It is a major force. It is the United States does not have much of a capacity, for example, to build ships. Japan does, and probably has the third strongest navy in the world after the United States and China. South Korea is also ramping up, its spending on defense. So you've got South Korea, Japan, and of course the United States has just approved $11 billion in arms to Taiwan. Just those three countries are a formidable force I'm not sure China can deal with. Never mind the United States. But I think it's still, hopefully this is still all enough to deter the Chinese rather than actually to get engaged in a war where who knows who knows what would happen. All right. 2 years ago, Javier Milei came into office. He won, and he came into office, and since then, he's really revolutionized the Argentinian economy. The successes have been stunning. Whether it's the poverty rate was just announced has plummeted to 27.5% in the third quarter, which is down from 52.9. Inflation is down to around 2% a month, down from 30% a month. Government spending is way down. The government is running surpluses. The success has been astounding. And, this is particularly rewarding for anybody who advocates for free markets or for a limited government. And in particular, given how conventional mainstream economists predicted that Milei would be a massive failure and would destroy the Argentinian economy. The reality has been, of course, exactly the opposite. Maybe the most important thing that's happening right now, that's happened this year with regard to Milei, is the fact that not only all these economic numbers are much, much better, and economic life is better, and I think the spirit of Argentinians is much, much better. They're much more excited. But it's that in Argentina, a country that has voted for leftist, Peronist governments over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, in spite of everything, the electorate has now voted for Milei, not only for president, but now for parliament as well. I think the election that just happened, was it a month or so ago, unbelievably inspiring, and suggests that there's a fundamental shift happening within Argentinian society. Now, it could shift back. Milei still has to be successful, continue to be successful. But the shift is real. It's when people go visit Argentina, they talk about the change in atmosphere. Augustina from the Ayn Rand Institute has just been to Argentina, and she's got an op-ed in the Orange County Register. You can read it, where she was just there, and she talked to people, and she observed just how people are, and it's different. She's originally from Argentina, and the country has changed. You'd expect freedom to change a people, and it does. We'll have Augustina on the show soon, hopefully, to talk more about Milei and about Argentina. But I just wanted to point this out, remind you, this is probably one of the most positive stories of 2025. The other part of this is what we have in store for 2026. Milei is working, I understand, on major reforms of labor markets and major reforms of the tax code, which would have, if he can get to pass Congress, he still doesn't have a majority in Congress, but if he can get to pass Congress, would have profound impact on the economy of Argentina. And if he can do that this year and start seeing the benefits of those provisions in 2027, an election year, and then get reelected in 2027, another 4 years of Milei, now you're talking about a real revolution and maybe succeeding in turning Argentina, as Milei says he wants to, into the freest country on the planet. That would be something. Still a long way to go. Argentina is still heavily regulated, heavily and in distorted ways taxed. And, he still has a lot to use that chainsaw on. But it's getting there. And 2026, I think, is going to be another pivotal year. 2025 was a pivotal year, and he made it because he got the congressional election going his way. Now he needs 2026. He needs the economic benefits of that to bound him in 2027. He needs to win that election, and that'd be amazing. All right, that is the news on this Friday, December 26th. And we've got an AMA tomorrow. So AMA, Ask Me Anything tomorrow at, I think it's 2 p.m. East Coast time. Same time as today. And then I'm not sure when the next show is going to be, But I do want to remind everybody that January 31st is the big year in review, looking forward to 2026 show. We'll talk about Milei again, among many other things. And yeah, it would be great if you guys showed up. It's a big fundraising show. So we're trying to raise a lot of money this year. It'll be, I'm trying to raise at least $15,000 during the show. If we can get to 20, that's my stretch goal. So somewhere between 15 to 20,000, 20,000 being the, crazy stretch goal. So I'm hoping you guys will participate. I'm hoping you guys will join. This is December 31st, 1 p.m. East Coast time. We'll go for at least 4 hours. So you don't have to join at 1 p.m. You can come during the show at some point. Please come and contribute and support the show in some way. Now, contributions are limited on YouTube to $500 per show. You will only be able to do $500 on that show. So anybody who wants to do more of that, you'll have to use PayPal to do it. So you can go anytime between today and the 31st and go to PayPal and do a one-time contribution, and I will count it towards the goal that we have on the show. So I will have PayPal in front of me during the show. I'll be able to track what people are doing in PayPal and what people are doing in YouTube. And I'll also count what has happened before the show. Just make a note for New Year's Eve show. Just note it there so I know that it's not some other contribution, but it's directly for this. Let's see. What else? Yes, in terms of the show, what does Ian say? Is there a match this year? Not yet, but if anybody out there wants to do a match, you can do an unlimited match. As you can match as many dollars as you want. You'll just have to do the match on PayPal after the fact, which is fine. But again, I'll count it all towards the total. So if anybody out there wants to do a match, please consider doing it. We can do more than one matches. We can match several. So far, nobody stepped forward to do a match, but that I think will help get us to the goal for people to know that every dollar that they give is matched by somebody, and that'll double everything up. But the target is between $15,000 to $20,000, which is a lot of money to do in 4 hours. So it's going to be like $5,000 an hour. We'll see if we can do that straight for 4 hours. Andrew says we need a whale for the match. Yes. Somebody out there, one of my whales, if you want to do a match, let me know. That would be really, really amazing. Andrew says he's just a trout. He's not a whale. So he's encouraging all of you guys, the whales out there, to come forward and propose a match. All right, let's see. What else do we want to do? Yes, I wanted to mention that. I want to mention quickly our sponsors for the show. We've got hendershotwealth.com/YBS, Hendershot with 2 T's, wealth.com/YBS, offering products that can reduce your capital gains tax liabilities. They've also got a product that now can reduce your straight out income tax. I'll be doing an interview with Robert about that in the next few months. But in the meantime, it's the capital gains product that is out there. I encourage you to watch the interview. It's on my playlists under sponsors that I did with Robert. And if you're interested at all, check out the website and sign up and have a conversation with him. It might be relevant to you. It might not. I don't know, but it's worth an attempt. Michael Williams from defendersofcapitalism.com is a sponsor. Michael, both a friend and a colleague at defendersofcapitalism.com, to which I contribute as a speaker. Incredible value, particularly leadership program of the Rockies, educating the next generation of leaders in Colorado on the ideas of capitalism. Alex Epstein, the #1 thinker in the world on issues of energy, fossil fuels, climate change. You can check him out at alexepstein.com/ No, what am I doing? alexepstein.substack.com. alexepstein.substack.com. Check him out and subscribe. And finally, the Ayn Rand Institute, reminding you that they're offering ARI Live courses starting in January. I will be teaching one of them on public speaking. You can sign up on, you can find the link to sign up on aynrand.org/start here, aynrand.org/start here, and you can get a discount for those courses, which is YBS. God, why am I blanking on the code? 26 YBS 10. 26 YBS 10. God, blanked out there. All right, sign up. You can also, still looking for some additional year-end people willing to make a kind of a monthly commitment to the Yaron Brook Show. So if you're willing to make a monthly commitment, for anywhere from $2 a month to $1,000 a month, $500 a month, you can do so. The best way to do it is on Patreon. You can also do it on PayPal, but patreon.com, Yaron Brook Show, and just go there and sign up. It's a great way to support the show. It benefits the show immensely to know how much money is coming in and to be able to predict into the future. So sign up on patreon.com, Yaron Brook Show, for a monthly contribution. And I know the economy's tough. And I know for many of you, money's tight, and I don't expect anybody to sacrifice. No sacrifices here. It's value for value. If you get value, and if you can afford to pay for that value, I'm doing it for free no matter what, right? But if you can afford to pay for that value, because I'm not doing it for free, I need to be paid. But you don't have to pay because it's available for free. If you can afford it, and if you find value in it, please consider making that monthly commitment on Patriot. Andrew says, where are the billionaire supporters of YBS? Who else supports their moral right to exist? That's a good line. Where are the billionaire supporters of YBS? Do I have any billionaires listening to the show? I think I do. I think there might be one or two. All right. That would be nice. Let's see. Yeah, other than that, of course, you can continue asking questions, particularly if you ask them at $20 or $50. That would be great. We're $200 short of our second hour goal. We're well into the second hour. We've got a lot of $20 questions, but 50 would be good. 100 would get us there really fast. All right, let's start with that doodle bunny. Why isn't objectivism saving the world, or is it? I don't know. You tell me. Why isn't it? Right? It's and what does it mean to save the world? How do you save the world? It's saving individuals. It's influencing individuals and impacting individuals' lives. It's changing people's lives. I don't know any other way to save the world other than one individual at a time, one mind at a time. It's definitely doing one mind at a time. Whether it can change the whole world ever, or whether it can change the whole world in a few decades, few centuries, I don't know. I have no idea. But it's definitely impacting one mind at a time. That is happening. So in that sense, saving one life is like saving the whole world. That's a Jewish saying. If you save one life, it's like you've saved a whole world, because a life is a world. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what it takes to change the whole world and what time frame that takes and what kind of action that takes. But I do know that people are impacted, people are changing for the better because of what we do. Andrew, do you think the self-abnegation of Kant's morality is a logical outgrowth of his main purpose, to reject the validity of reason, his means of self-esteem? Or is it self-abnegation the main purpose of his system? I mean, he says the main purpose is to save faith from reason. So his main purpose is, in a sense, to undermine reason. And this is a consequence of that. Once you take away somebody's ability to comprehend the world and to understand it and to see it fully, you undermine his ability to have self-esteem. You undermine his ability to be happy and be successful. You undermine his morality. So I think that's his number one. At least that's from the introduction of his book. But who knows what ultimately was the motivation what was more important to him? Is the establishment of duties, and therefore he came out with a theory of epistemology the way he did, or was it the theory of epistemology that drove his sense of morality, or was it both equally? I don't know. I just don't know. They're both logically related. So any place you start, you will ultimately end up in the other place if you're consistently apply the philosophical ideas. Michael, for some people, is all they know hate. A message of benevolence and happiness from objectivism can never penetrate their psyche because they've never experienced it before, like the first time hearing a new language. Well, I don't know if they've never experienced that before. I mean, I think most people have had positive experiences in their childhood. But hate, and I'm not sure hate is the dominant emotion. I think the dominant emotion they have is fear. I think the dominant emotion in the culture is fear. Hate is a consequence of the fear. Fear is what happens when you don't have a really good grasp on your ability to deal with the world, deal with reality, deal with what's happening around you, deal with your own life, take full responsibility for it. Fear is the emotion that then drives everything else, and that leads them to hate. But I don't know that. I don't know if it's most people. For some people, that certainly is the case. Now, is it possible to penetrate? I assume it is. I don't know if it's impenetrable. Ultimately, we're not trying to penetrate with appeal to emotion. We're trying to penetrate with an appeal to a mind, to think. And does hate and fear shut that down completely for some people? But maybe not for all people. I don't know enough about psychology, and I don't want to generalize and say what's inevitable is that it shuts it down for everybody. I don't know. Not your average algorithm. As a recovering Peter Keating myself, I can tell you there is hope. It's about using one's free will and choosing rational thought. It's not easy when you came from a family of brutes, but it can be done. Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. And I mean, congratulations to you, Not Your Average Algorithm, for achieving that, for doing it. It's not easy. But at the end of the day, it's about actually using your mind and being honest. It's about refusing to evade. It's about thinking. And that's what it takes. And I think people are capable of it, no matter their background, no matter their experiences. Andrew, enjoyed your interview with Vincent Galloso, despite his hailing the egalitarian effect of capitalist economics. What's your view of whether capitalism leads to less or more economic inequality? Is more or less good overall? I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters more or less, and I don't think it's static. I think there might be periods in which inequality increases and then periods in which it shrinks. And you can think of it in economic terms, in competition terms. So there might be periods in which, for example, brilliant entrepreneurs, there's a huge rush into a new industry, AI. Brilliant entrepreneurs make a huge amount of money as being the initiators of AI or the initiators of automobiles or the initiators of trains or whatever it is. And they make an enormous amount of money. But then competitors enter the field. And they, in a sense, flatten out the amount of money being made. I mean, generally, in capitalism, profit margins are constantly being driven downwards by competition. But of course, innovation, entrepreneurship, and constant improvement keep driving some profit margins up and then down, and then up and then down, and up and down. So there's this pattern that goes. Now, whether it moves as an economy-wide or rolls through different industries, I don't know. And again, I don't think it matters. I think Vincent's point, which I do think is important, is not so much that the gap, I don't think the gap matters. What matters is that, there's mobility, there's asocial mobility, and B, that the poor people, or at least the deserving poor people, right, the working poor, their lot is improving. If capitalism generally raised living standards, but the poor stayed poor and their quality of life never improved, which is not the case in capitalism, then yeah, you can understand why some people would have a problem with it. But the reality is, and what Vincent's work has shown, is that not only does the poor, their lot improves, but it improves a lot. That is, it improves at the same speed as the improvement of other parts of society. So the poor are benefiting significantly. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, the speed, the exact rate is less important. But what's important is that, and it's inherent in capitalism, it's inherent in the very nature of win-win transactions, that everybody is going to benefit from it. Again, everybody's willing to be productive. Anybody is willing to work. Catherine, where do you see Europe and EU in 5 years? Do you think it will be a place with more innovation, wealth, and freedom? What will be the European country with a higher standard of living? Oh, that's a really hard question. Really hard question, because, I mean, you have to predict politics here and a lot of things. Look, I think Europe is waking up to the fact that it better reform. So I think you're going to see some, even if minor, efforts at deregulation. But even relatively small moves towards deregulation will increase innovation and entrepreneurship. I think countries like Germany, facing no economic growth or even negative economic growth, are going to have to reform. It's going to be hard. But I don't think they have a choice. So, look, I don't know. It could very well be that the next 5 years are going to be 5 years to drive Europe deeper, drive Europe towards poverty, that Europe will become much worse, and only then will there be an awakening that leads them to better. The countries that are doing relatively well, as countries like in Scandinavia, Spain is doing well in spite of a socialist government because it did significant reforms after the financial crisis. Greece is doing well, but both Spain and Greece are basically held afloat by tourism. And at least in Spain, they become very anti-tourist. And the more anti-tourist they become, the more they'll hurt their own economy. I don't think they have to build their own AI data centers. I don't think that's going to be required at all. There's absolutely no reason they can't use the data centers in the United States. They don't have to mimic. They have to find a comparative advantage. They have to do their own thing. They have to innovate and they have to encourage entrepreneurship. And they have to move away from zero carbon stupidity. They have to move towards nuclear. They have to do more LNG on gas. They have to reduce their dependence on Russia. These are the kind of things they have to do. I don't think they'll do all of it in 5 years. So we'll have the highest living standard. Who has the highest living standard now? Luxembourg. That'll continue probably. I think Northern Europe is going to continue to be relatively wealthy as compared to Southern. Poland is doing very well. It's growing. I don't know that it'll catch up, but it completely to Scandinavia, but it's growing. So maybe Poland will compete with one of the places that has the highest standard of living in terms of GDP per capita, at least. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The politics of Europe also, every country is a little different. European Union that has its own politics. Very complicated and not an area where I'm knowledgeable, but I'm not. Politics generally, the mechanism, the mechanics of politics are not something I'm a huge expert in. Jonathan, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, Yaron. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Jonathan, our spokesman on Fox Business. It's great. I love seeing his success on Fox Business. Equal to reality, Boxing Day, 26th December, began in Britain when servants and tradespeople received Christmas boxes from their employers as gifts. a tradition of post-Christmas charity and reward for service. Interesting. So it was all about boxes in post-Christmas. So it is about the boxes. Robert says he was going to cut back on Super Chat dollars too. But since several others have announced that they need to cut back, I'll just need to step up my income game. Besides, Super Chatting is too fun to stop. I agree. It's way too fun to stop, particularly for me. But I appreciate that. Thank you, Robert, Nasir. And no, you do not have a duty to make up for everybody who is cutting back. There is no duty like that, but I appreciate everything that you guys provide. So thank you, guys. Talk about appreciating. Wes is doing another sticker. Almost daily, we get a sticker for $50 from Wes. So thank you, Wes. Really, 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 really appreciate it. So thank you. Let's see, we got a few other stickers. Johnny, thank you. And who else? We got Ryan and let's see, Silvanos. Oh, it's good to see Silvanos again, twice in a row. It's been a while. And then Finn Harper started all going. So thank you, guys. Really appreciate the support. All right. MN, what's with no video of the Pinker talk? Presumably that was his demand. Was there a rational offering, or does he not want his attendance widely known? No, I first of all, I have no idea, right? I mean, you guys think I'm an insider, but nobody tells me anything. So unless it comes to the board of directors, and the no Pinker video did not come to the board of directors, I wouldn't know. So nobody told me, so I don't know. I don't take it as that. I'm taking it as no video release, broad public general release, in order to try to get people to come to Ocon. And maybe, and I'm just speculating here, but maybe the Institute then releases the video selectively and charges money for it. So maybe the Institute has come to the conclusion that broadly releasing the video discourages people from coming to Ocon, and it's trying to encourage people to come to Ocon. I don't know. Maybe it was Pinker's demand, request. I have my doubts about that because we're advertising it widely. Everybody's going to know he was there. Why would he not want it? Maybe they want it. I don't know. I have no idea. I'll ask, and if the reason is public, I'll let you know. Hopper, should you not wait until you're ready to make moves? Move first, let confidence catch up later. I'm not sure what that means. So should you build up the confidence and then act, or should you act even before you have the full confidence? If you know that the action is the right thing to do, then you should move first and let the confidence come partially from the movement itself, and then from achieving the values that the movement is geared towards achieving. So don't wait. I think in one of my rules for life, it's move, act, get out there, pursue values. And part of how you get confidence is by doing that. How are you going to get the confidence if you don't act? So bias action once you've decided it's the right thing to do. Bias towards action. All right, Liam, do you think Milei will do something really radical before his term is up, like abolish all regulations of pharmaceuticals or abolish the central bank income tax? No. I think that the pattern with Milei is incremental, big, but incremental changes. So I think labor reform will be big. I think he'll revamp the tax code. Exactly what he does with that, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if all tariffs, all importation and exportation taxes were eliminated. So you could imagine Argentina being a zero tariff place. I don't think it'll be a zero income tax place. But I do think taxes will be different than they are today. So part of the reason is that much of the Argentinian economy is a black market where nobody pays taxes because they don't declare the income. I think he has to change that. So lower and simplify taxes and expand the base, which I think is what he'll do. James, is Trump the first fascist administration to deregulate an economy? What has Trump deregulated specifically that has been so effective? Well, I don't think he has done any big deregulations. I mean, that would require Congress. What he's done is he's basically told all the regulatory agencies, lay off, with the exception of antitrust, lay off. So, for example, an industry I know really well, which is the banking industry. Under the Biden administration, bank regulators were basically told, go out there, harass the bankers, don't allow for mergers, just check out all the loans, be very diligent with the bankers. And Trump's attitude is, and I don't know it's Trump, but his economic people is, no, lay off banks, give them the freedom, let them act, let them loan, don't intervene, and you're going to see a lot of bank mergers in the next 3 years, a lot of bank consolidation in the next 3 years because banks need to consolidate economically. There are too many banks in the U.S. And they were allowed to consolidate under Trump. They weren't allowed under Biden. And that was at the regulator's discretion. The same with environmental regulation. It's not a matter of changing the law. A lot of it is, what do you enforce and what don't you enforce? There is a number of major deregulations at the regulatory agency level of just changing the rules that govern the regulatory agency. That is it's still in the works, and it'll happen over the early part of next year, and you'll see more and more of an impact on it. So a lot of it is just the regulators stepping back and allowing business a little bit more freedom. And then there are some big things like this bill that just passed Congress, passed the House, I don't think it passed the Senate yet, that is going to significantly reduce permitting, government permitting. That'll increase activity and increase infrastructure projects and increase economic activity. So it's little things like that are happening. Now, Trump is not a fascist explicitly. He's not an ideologue. And he doesn't really care about a lot of things. So he leaves it to underlings to do certain things. And he certainly appointed some good people in places like energy and environment that are unwinding statist regulations in a positive way. It's not because Trump has that agenda. He just, I don't think Trump cares. As long as as long as there's enough regulations and rules in place so that he can squeeze people for the kind of bribes that he wants, which he's getting all the time, I don't think he cares about the rest. Michael, Elon Musk argues there is a homeless industrial complex, particularly in states like California, where charities get paid a fortune from the state per homeless person they provide services to. Yeah, I haven't seen Elon argue for that, but I've seen studies that have shown that exists. Indeed, this is part of kind of the change that's happening, I think, in California over the last year or so with regard to homelessness. There is this realization that there are all these nonprofits that get a huge amount of money from the state, and then they're responsible for treating the homeless, but a lot of that money disappears. And obviously, the treatment of the homeless is not helping anybody. And where's all that money gone? And people who run those non-for-profits are making have huge salaries. So yeah, there is a homeless industrial complex. There's no question about that. I don't think that's partisan. I don't think it requires some crazy accusation by Elon Musk. I think that's well documented and established in California. There was a couple of articles in major California newspapers that I saw dealing with that. Michael, the left seems more sophisticated with its anti-Semitism, attacking Zionism and colonialism in esoteric ways, whereas the new right just tells me to go to a gas chamber right off the bat. Yeah, I mean, the right is dumb. I mean, that's the reality. I think Richard Hanania, who makes this observation over and over again, I think is absolutely right. you know, the left is evil. There's no question about that. The far left is evil. But they're not stupid. The right is stupid. The right is not smart. The right is crude and dumb. And crudeness comes from its dumbness. They're not intelligent and they're not sophisticated. Now, the left basically has its anti-Semitism all centered around Israel and Jews' success, but they don't want to be too explicit about that. The right is very similar. It's very second-handed, but it's much cruder. It's much more violent. Well, not more violent, but it's cruder. It's less sophisticated. But that comes from it's just not a sophisticated ideology. It's an ideology of muscle. It's an ideology of dumbness. Clark, sad to see that Nick Fuentes has decided to run against Vivek Ramaswamy for governor of Ohio on a platform of open bigotry. I don't think he's actually running for governor of Ohio. He has decided to oppose Ramaswamy. That is, he will encourage people in Iowa to vote against Vivek, even if it means voting for Democrat. And he is going to go to Ohio and really engage in the debate. I don't think he's running for governor. So I don't think he's ready to run for political office. But he is super he would rather the Republicans vote for a Democrat, and a Jew at that, a Jewish Democrat, who is the opponent, who is a Democrat, who's running for governor of Ohio, than they vote for Vivek. That's the extent of his hatred of Vivek and of Indian Americans. Clark says, I have no sympathy for Vivek. He thought the bigotry in the Republican Party could be directed towards minorities other than his own. I agree with you. I think the way he ran for president was horrible, tragically horrible, because he's smarter than that. So, yes, I agree. I really don't have a lot of sympathy for him. Not your average algorithm says anti-Semitism is a brain-eating disease. Yeah, but it's also a symptom of the fact that your brain is already being eaten away. It's a symptom of gross stupidity or detachment, real detachment from reality. Ryan wants to remind you all to like the show before you leave. Press that like button. It really, really helps the algorithm. And please, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the show. You'll get notified when I go live. And when I publish shorter videos. So please subscribe to the show. Again, any action you take, a comment, a chat, a subscription, a super chat, a sticker, a like, all of them help with the algorithm. Tony, thank you for the sticker. Really, really appreciate it. That Doodle Bunny, part 1. I'm reading Hegel's Phenomenology of Spirit. It's incomprehensible fantasy. I have no idea what he's saying, yet his political philosophy took over the world. Where Rand's capitalism, that an ideal is clear as day and makes total sense, yet is hardly known. Yeah, look, here's the thing. Hegel doesn't require you to think. And he doesn't require you to understand. He just requires you, in a sense, to take Hegel's conclusion. The state is all. The state is everything. The state is what you should give yourself to. That's easy. That's emotional. Whereas Ayn Rand requires you to think. To be moral, you have to think. To understand a philosophy, you have to think. To understand life, you have to think. Everything is think. Which is hard. It's a challenge for people. And most people are not willing to rise to the challenge. Liam, thoughts on AfD party in Germany? Is it a new band of nationalistic parties primarily focused around anti-immigrant nationalism combined with modest amounts of deregulation? Yeah, I mean, AfD has two main issues, immigration and energy, right? They're against the Greens in energy. And that's the one good thing they are. And immigration. They have no positive agenda when it comes to economics. They're not pro-free markets. They're not pro-free deregulation, other than energy. They're also, they're pro-Russia, which is one of their great sins. They're very pro-Russia, anti-Ukraine. It is a new brand of nationalist party that are basically, well, not new, right? I mean, the Nazis in the fascists who are nationalist parties were also, there were anti-minorities, particularly the Nazis, which immigrants are, and a pro kind of socialism and economics. And I think the AfD follows that path. And pro-authoritarianism. The Nazi Party cut deals with the Soviets. So it wasn't anti-Soviet in and of itself. It was anti-communism as a threat inside Germany, but not anti-communism as people you couldn't deal with. So I think AfD follows a long tradition of right-wing parties. I don't think they're unique. The immigration issue is real, and it's what makes them popular. It's the one issue that resonates with the German people. And the energy, the immigration and energy are both real issues. Marius, how would you like to see NATO reform? What would need to happen to include countries like South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and Israel? So I don't think you need to include all those other countries. I would actually like to see, ultimately, over a 5-year period, the United States leave NATO and Europe commit to taking on full responsibility for defending itself, defending Europe, with the United States committing to continuing to provide or to sell weapon systems and provide maybe intelligence, whatever unique things that the United States has that are hard to mimic, that it commit to continuing to do that without committing to put troops on the ground. So I would like to see, I think if U.S. withdrew from NATO but supported it morally, diplomatically, and with weapons and intelligence, then I think it would be much more palatable for the U.S. to be supporting Europe. I think Americans, it would be a lot easier, and I think it would be right. I don't think American kids should die to protect Estonia, but I think French kids should, because if Russia starts in Estonia, ultimately it will be France that pays the long run price. So I think Europe needs to own NATO. I think what you need is an alliance in the Western Pacific, including South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, maybe Singapore, Australia, maybe including the Philippines and maybe even Malaysia and Indonesia, to basically counter Chinese influence. And again, the United States could be willing to supply them with weapons, and of course, morally and diplomatically have their back, and intelligence-wise, supply them with intelligence, but not commit to actually putting troops on the ground. And I think if you did that, the world would be a much more secure place. I think the United States would be in a better both moral and political position. It wouldn't have to have troops all over the world, but would have its allies and would recognize that these countries are allies that it is willing to support in various ways, not defend, but support. And I think the same thing, it would have a relationship with all these countries like it has with Israel. It's willing to have an airlift. It's willing to provide them weapons in emergency, but not to put troops on the ground where it risks American lives. I think that would be a much healthier foreign policy. Andrew says, when say Judaism is morally healthier than Christianity, when you say, do you factor in Orthodox Jews? Is there repression closer to an expression of real Judaism? Incidentally, do you find davening creepy? So no, I don't include Orthodox Jews. I think Orthodox Judaism is a perversion. It's a form of Judaism that is kind of being frozen in time from I don't know the 17th century, but really it's medieval in many respects. It's barbaric. It treats women horribly. Just the fact that they wear the clothes that they wear tells you everything you needed to know. And they wear them under all circumstances, and it doesn't make any sense. So, yes, and they've achieved nothing. They've done nothing. Orthodox Judaism is a net parasite on Israeli society, and it's a net parasite on the world. So it doesn't achieve anything. So I'm not sympathetic at all to it. I find it barbaric. No, I say Judaism, as practiced by most Jews, and Judaism as I think articulated by the ancients, if you will. The advantage it has, the reason it's healthier than Christianity, is it has no original sin, and it has no afterlife. And therefore, it can't say sacrifice, 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 you'll be rewarded after life. It doesn't say that. It doesn't have Jesus on a cross sacrificing in the same way as Christianity does. It's a much more this worldly and much more sympathetic to self-interest and the self-interested needs of individuals than Christianity is. So I think in that sense it's healthier than, morally healthier than Christianity. Do I find davening creepy? Yeah, I do, but but I also get it, right? So if you're in synagogue and you're reading from a text and you're reading over and over again, you're standing because you have to stand, for a large part of the ceremony. I don't know, it comes kind of naturally, the davening, the back and forth, the rocking. It kind of keeps you awake. It gives you a certain rhythm to the reading. The davening is the rocking that you do, as you read, as I'm doing right now. I probably did it when I was a kid. But yeah, I find it when they all do it and they're all in sync, creepy. But maybe not as much as you do because I've lived it. I've been there, done it. So maybe not quite as bad. Raphael, Yaron, tomorrow I will visit the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam for the first time. Is there any artwork there especially recommended seeing? Well, the Vermeers. The Vermeers are beautiful. I think I recommended to you to go out to The Hague as well. There's a couple of beautiful Vermeers at The Hague. If you have time, you can take the train, see the Vermeers, take the train back to Amsterdam. It's pretty quick. But yes, I definitely go see the Vermeers. I think the Milkmaid is there. And then the Rembrandts, the Vermeers and the Rembrandts. I mean, and then if you like, but even if you don't like, you can appreciate the stunning still lifes, that Rijksmuseum. So I'd say, focus on the Dutch art, Rembrandt, Vermeer, and the still lifes. There's also a lot of other painters of the same period who do some amazing stuff with perspective and lights, and it's just a lot to see. Enjoy. All right, Liam says, have you visited the Führer bunker in Berlin? No interest. It's not like I want to dance on his grave, and it's not like I'm interested in anything about him other than what he did and his ideas, and I know that, and I'm not interested in anything beyond that. So no. Generally in Berlin, I don't like Berlin. It reminds me too much of its history, and I visited the art museums. That's about it. And I've given talks and done stuff there, but that's about it. All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks to all the super chatters. Really, really appreciate it. Have a great Boxing Day, whatever the hell that means again. And I encourage you to, check out AMA tomorrow. Don't forget about the December 31st show. Patreon. Yeah, and I'll see you tomorrow. And if not tomorrow, then next week. Bye, everybody.